And just starting to record this presentation now on my computer. We just gave the disclaimer. Again, that is let's see. Need to reduce the size of this screen. Here's a disclaimer again. Got to make sure we catch this also for the replay. So here you go. There is our disclaimer. Not doing anything that would normally require a license, and whatever you do with it is up to you. As a bonus, the results are a bonus. All we're doing is guaranteeing we're teaching the truth as far as what the cause and prevention of disease is, how the cells work, the science. So there we go. Now, I got that out of the way twice, and we're recording now. So the introduction, my intention is to help everyone get the whole Power Heal system and applied lymphology course, and I got to dangle the carrot a little bit for that. It means I also have to give you a lot of valuable information. I'm going to teach you more about how the cells work and what shuts them off. And let me ask you a question. If all the cells are healthy, are you healthy or sick? It's a really important question. If all your cells are healthy, are you healthy or sick? Well, you're healthy. They name the diseases according to where the cells don't work, which is the location. Most people figure that out because that's where they have a pain or a problem. And then the next thing is how it affects that part of the body is really good too, because that starts getting into the mechanisms behind it. And if you can reverse the mechanisms, can you reverse the disease? So those are the most important areas of what they name it, is how it affects that part of the body, and most importantly, which mechanisms are involved. And so we're going to be discussing some mechanisms, some master mechanisms that haven't been discussed, and focusing in on COVID-19, and also other big killers, all the disease mechanisms. We know what regulates them genetically, including the TMPRSS2, which is the protein all coronaviruses and influenzas have to attach to the ACE2 receptor site. And it hasn't been discussed. They've known about it for quite a while, at least 5 years and longer. I know that they've known about it for longer, but it hasn't been discussed in mainstream medicine. So NRF2 activators are a huge way to massively, radically has an impact on everything that makes us who we are and what we are. And go into a little bit of detail on that. Let's get into this science behind all the healing arts, the secret hidden science, and why we call it that. Because it's not taught in any college, university, or medical school in the whole world. The NGOs have prevented that. Like the first NGO, Rockefeller Foundation, which came out of Standard Oil Trust, we know we have less than half the medical schools today than we did prior to the first NGO, Rockefeller Foundation. So that's not democracy. That was because of serious brute mob tactics, putting everybody out of business who didn't want to play ball with Big Pharma. And we know how that happened. There's a big history. Again, I'm going to give away a huge gift, especially by the end of this presentation. So if you feel like you got in the middle of it or came in the tail end, I gave a little bit of time in the early part of this presentation just to help people come on so you wouldn't miss the best parts of it. But we're gonna teach you what isn't being taught. Many of the things that, especially when it comes to, there's a healthy cell environment where it's impossible to have degenerative diseases like cancer. That's right. You can't have any tumors. You can't have any itises. You'll learn what that is. And if that's all you learned in this presentation, it's worth 10 million plus. And the people who are dying from COVID-19, they're dying from a terminal inflammation, from a fatal amount of inflammation. And they also, we know they have hypoalbuminemia, which means low albumin in the blood. Another word for it is shock. Eventually, it can happen so fast. It's the #1 killer for soldiers in war. When enough leaves fast enough, the blood vessels just collapse, leaving you dead on the spot because you don't have blood volume to keep the positive pressure in the vessels. And we're going to talk about some men who published some things that aren't taught, they're still teaching Starling's hypothesis, which says the albumin doesn't even leave the bloodstream. And we're talking about the same protein that's around the single cell of an egg. Anyway, we're going to give you more information about that than what's taught in Harvard. I'm already giving you some clues, but during this presentation, I can't give you all that's in my head on it because we only have about 40, 45 minutes left. I can barely scratch the surface within this presentation. So I have a scripted version that I'm going to make available to everyone who's watching this presentation. Yet this presentation has some seriously urgent updates that everyone needs to hear. Please, please, please click the share button and share this, even this live feed, if you're listening live, to everyone that you know. Please click the share button right now. So understanding the dangers and solutions of COVID-19 and other coronaviruses and influenzas is really important. Pneumonia. I'm going to teach you some key principles of the cause of every disease and the cause of pneumonia here. Also, again, dangling the carrot because it's my job to dangle the carrot for the next presentation where I teach some practical application, a very simple yet powerful technique to prevent and eliminate pneumonia. And the techniques I teach they come from standing on the shoulders of so many geniuses for many years and from many years of practice while receiving intuition. If you're like me, you don't invest your time for presentations like this for no reason. You have a need or needs along with possible questions, yes? And you're welcome to use the text feature within the Zoom app of this presentation, which you can get into the Zoom again from events.zeroddisease.com, and you'll also see all the other events that I'm going to be doing for this 4-hour block on Thursdays, starting with this presentation. You'll see that there, events.zeroddisease.com. You're welcome to use the text feature within that Zoom app to ask your questions, and I believe I'll answer most of your questions in the natural course of the presentation, just because how it's laid out. And please keep your microphone muted until the very end if you get into the Zoom, unless I've asked you to share your story or unmute for another reason. I may ask someone to say a few words. And if we have time, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So for any questions I haven't answered, if you're just listening to the Facebook Live or replay, you're also welcome to private message me after the event. If you're like me, then you'll be looking for the value of everything that I say through this entire presentation. Because one question I've asked myself when making any investment decision is, what's the value? You're probably having that same sort of question in your mind right now. I carefully evaluate whether someone qualifies to be my teacher on any and every topic when I'm considering learning from anyone. And for me, the bottom line is in the results. Whatever area of my life I might need to get educated in, I want to find an expert in that area. How about you? Do you usually do your best to find someone who really can deliver high performance in that area? And it may seem ultra confident of me. Yet my attitude is, if you can find anyone with greater success stories, I prefer you go learn from them instead of learning from me. How's that? So, and I admit I have my strengths and weaknesses just as everyone does, just as you do. You might, find some people that you run into who have a hard time admitting where some of those weaknesses are, and I'm not the best at everything, yet I don't know anyone who is better than I am at what I do. So part of my job is to open up and share what my strengths are, which gives me the green light to show off a little for you here in this presentation. I hope that's okay. It's my job. Here I have that green light. And I like to put some other great people in the spotlight, especially in live events, who I know a lot of great people come to my events too, and I like to highlight strengths of others. I think that shows grace, and I think that it's one of the reasons you're here is to see where my strengths can complement yours and to help you solve problems of pain, loss of energy, premature aging, degeneration, disease, and even possibly supersede and transcend the normal aging process. For those of you who are ready for high performance, you might be here for the next level high performance. And I really love that because that's, I think, what everything leads to, finally. And everyone who's listening has their own reasons for listening and is at a different place. And I don't claim to have all the have-all, be-all, as far as all the answers are, or to know all the answers. Yet, when it comes to increasing health and vitality, I have some key answers for you, which I believe I'm meant to be the teacher you've been looking for. And maybe the one you didn't even know you were looking for, but the one you'll see that you need by the end of this presentation. My goal is to help 100% of everyone take the next step, even if it's just the small step of taking the next class in this series today, right after this presentation. 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll see you on that next presentation, and I want to help all of you do that. And to take some of the financial pressure off of my ultimate goal, which is to help 100% of you obtain my entire Power Heal and Applied Lymphology course training, which I know is a rather large investment for most of you. So please pay close attention to every detail of this presentation. There is much I will share, and let's move forward, get through this amazing presentation planned for you. So I've already started with the disclaimer. I'm going to jump now into, well, let's go into some of the first slides of my regular presentation that I've given for many years. It starts from that disclaimer, which we've already given a couple times. Covered myself there. And yeah, let's give you my father. I have a great mentor who's been in my life, and he's helped many people get started on their paths. Like, he's the one that helped Anthony Robbins get started on his path, and Wayne Dyer get started on his path, literally. And the first person to make $1 million doing massage hasn't had a muscle come to him ever since he became a student of my father. And since then, he's helped host events for me, and he's helped learn. I've been honored to be one of his teachers as well. But my father was a Nobel Prize nominee. He is the one who discovered the sodium potassium pump, pioneered a lot of lymphology, father of applied lymphology, discovered the really important discovery, the electric generator of the cells, what I call the engine, is the sodium potassium pump. It provides the power for cells to function and makes life possible. He coined the phrase trapped blood proteins also. Hopefully you're seeing this. I'm going to be back here with you. I call those locked blood proteins, the trapped blood proteins. And I wouldn't be where I am without him. A lot of people who are listening to this, who have known me throughout the years, they know that I have a reason to sort of talk about my contributions too. So to start with, I have a few kids, and I'm proud to be a father. I love my kids very much. They all receive prenatal empowerment, which is something I've been doing. It's taken 23 years to see where they're at by the time they're 22. And they're all born with beyond photographic memories, and they've been straight A students. It's been easy for them. They've also been multilingual because it's been easy for them and fun. My first oldest, he was winning first place in spelling bees as soon as he was old enough to enter. He's just, they've all spoken early, and it took 4 years old to where we could enter them in spelling bees. That's just the age requirement. So what if all children were at that level of the first place winners of the spelling bees by the time they're 4 years old? What would that do to help create world peace? So there's something I developed, prenatal empowerment. It's something I'm really proud of, and it's something that I think within one generation, it could help create world peace. It help us keep up with what's going on with AI. Because if we keep doing what we've done, even the elites think they're way ahead of the game, getting kids at 3 or 4 years old and starting that early. And what I'm saying is they are way behind the learning curve. And we can all get caught up really quick. That's possible. And again, I want to make it possible for everyone who is knowing someone who's getting pregnant or is pregnant. I want to make that possible for everyone. The parents who do this benefit also, but there are keys to that. We can upload data files like the English language as soon as the brain has hit a certain stage of development. And I've been able to do a lot of that. I'm proud and honored to be one of the pioneers in that field. So yeah, again, I have my strengths. One other thing that I am really honored to share is the ability to produce stem cells for every part of your body every day, not just one part of your body one day, and to do it without any products, without any needles. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, what that means when we can do it just with through prayer, but not just any kind of prayer. One that has a little bit more oomph. So the instant mass healing demo that I'll be providing for you here in this presentation includes a lot of that programming will be transferred. And so it's one of the reasons why it has some of the results that it has. When people learn how to integrate that, there is a way to integrate it with every, so it's happening on autopilot, running in the subconscious programming with perpetual programming commands is what I call them. That's a term that even is something that most hypnotherapists have never heard of before. But it's one that I've been using for many years now. So, and it works. So how long this will last for you, a lot of it depends on how pure your programming is and what all needs to be weeded out. And so I have a way of helping people learn how to do this for themselves and how to transfer it for other people that is 100% success. I'm willing to put a money back guarantee on it that you can transfer it to someone just as fast and easy as I can, especially if it's through the eyes. If we're in person at one of my live events, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I have a lot of confidence, and it's a money back guarantee on that. But I might as well not have to say any guarantee because I already know what's going to happen before it happens. It's like any law, when you put it into action, when you step out in front of a moving car, usually you get hit. When you put a hand on a hot stove, usually you get burned. And when there are things that may supersede some of those laws, when we put those into action, like gravity, usually, if you jump off the edge of a cliff, you may fall, but if you have wings, you can fly. And without, I would also say the air is not as thin as it looks. It's one of the parts of this presentation. The air is not as thin as it looks. The masks really don't do what people think they do. We have more microbes in the air we breathe than there is in the mud. That's something that I've been teaching. That's something that has been known for a long time, but have you ever heard out of sight, out of mind? There is some truth to that. For too many people, if they can't see it with their eyes, they don't want to believe it. And that's why when Christ put mud on a blind person's eyes, and then the blind person could see, the people end up writing down what they could see. But from my experience, most of what happened was not what they could see. And the whole point is helping blind people see. And the whole part of that, the main topic of that conversation was helping give people sight that they could not see before. Interesting. When what ended up being written was just what people could see. And that's what's been happening for far too long. It's time to pull back the veil and unmask and unveil what mask hypnosis is as well, how little commitments lead to big commitments, and unveil the marvel of all history for, I think, the very first time in history. And that is, there's a quote from George Washington that I'm going to share with you here. The marvel of all history is the patience with which men and women submit to burdens unnecessarily laid upon them by their governments. We finally explained that too, and George Washington didn't even understand why. He just knew that was the case. If he understood why, we probably would have created world peace a long time ago if our world leaders would have understood this, the why behind this. But many of them have understood that this is just the case, and many of them have taken advantage of that fact. And it's part of hypnosis. Little commitments lead to big commitments. And some people use that to manipulate people through that hypnosis. And the fact is, education, training, and hypnosis are all the same. We can use that for positive and empower people, or some people try to use it for actually disempowerment. I don't think it's a bright idea to use it for disempowerment. I personally believe everything is interconnected, and there are higher realm beings that help us evolve and expand and integrate more truth when we're empowering people. And otherwise, we disintegrate. That the integration versus disintegration is also at the heart of empowerment. And if you take cognitive dissonance and plug it into all the basic personal development models, you start getting a grand integration happening right away. And that is further explained in a program that I'm gifting to everyone who listens to this whole presentation. So stick around. And it also includes another introduction on this, but stick around for the whole presentation. Before I jump too much into science, I know that it's 12:46. Time flies. How did that happen? Okay. Here's a screen. I can't believe this. But here's a screen, and what I might do, I'm going to check my piggy bank and see what's happened here. But here's a screen showing a healthy environment on the left and the disease environment on the right. And this is all, if all you understand is this, we're taking you out of the medical dark ages. If all you understand is what we're looking at right here. And again, that is a perfect living environment of the cells on the left. It's impossible to have any degenerative diseases in that environment, because when degeneration starts happening, even the beginning of it, you start getting a disease environment on the right. And on the top, you've got a blood vessel called a capillary. On the bottom is a lymphatic vessel, and the cells are between them. You actually have more lymph in the body than blood, and more lymph vessels than blood vessels, but they're transparent. And then, like I said, out of sight, out of mind, right? And they're not visible to the naked eye. So you have a two-way circulatory system with the bloodstream. Arteries and veins have a muscle layer around them, and that's not where we directly get the oxygen and nutrients from. We get them from the capillaries, which are the very smallest, and they are full of holes. We naturally lose the whole albumin content every 24 hours. That's right. And Starling's hypothesis says it doesn't happen at all. And there's a guy named Cecil K. Drinker at Harvard in 1930, challenged the Starling's hypothesis for the same. He was the first person to challenge it, and he said they practically universally leak albumin. And then a student of his, Dr. H.S. Merson, picked up that research and was surprised that they hadn't changed the medical text yet. They still haven't changed them. They're still teaching Starling's hypothesis. But Cecil K. Drinker started at Harvard, and then Hyman Samuel Merson, Tulane Medical School, picked up the ball. He even published in the American Heart Association journal by the time they decided to shut him up. And he proved that we don't even have a positive pressure in the blood without the subpressure lymphatic vessels constantly retrieving the natural seepage, which the whole albumin content, again, leaves every 24 hours. It's the same blood protein around a single cell of a chicken egg. And there's a reason why that chicken egg needs no external source of oxygen, because the genes are tuned perfect. Superoxide dismutase, one of the gene products that we produce when we're healthy newborns, converts 1 million superoxides per second back to oxygen. That's one reason newborn babies, when they're not breathing for a while, it's okay. No need to panic. Their genes are tuned, and it may take a little bit longer. That's why they can last longer. We don't have to throw in the towel. That's why some people can be dead for even 3 days and come back, and why some people can have the main vein in their head blocked for 9 months and still not even be paralyzed from the stroke. That happened to me the first time I was in Maui 6 years ago. I was walking around with the main vein in my head blocked because I was producing superoxide dismutase. It's just one of the gene products regulated by NRF2. One of the 3,000 to 5,000 genes that are called survival genes, because it's all the disease mechanism genes. It includes every gene associated with cell division, cancer, all the anti-inflammatory proteins. It's what regulates all this genetically. And if you want to know the best NRF2 activation out there, private message me, because I've been on that technology for over 10 years now, and I love it. I'm a really big advocate of it. It's one of the things we need with COVID-19. It regulates the TMPRSS2. It's the strongest inhibitor of the TMPRSS2, which the coronaviruses have to attach to the ACE2 receptor site. What we're looking at, anytime we break any of the laws of nature, it dilates capillary pores, and out comes the blood protein and water. It forms a disease environment. All the laws, life's made of systems. Each system has a certain amount of laws. When we break the laws, it causes that disease environment. Think about swatting a fly. It's causing that disease environment, and that's why it makes you weaker with the kinesiology, or what's called muscle testing. You think about shooting it out the door and letting it live, it makes you stronger. And that's why it's connected to the shock. The capillaries can dilate so much that you lose the albumin so fast, the blood vessels just collapse. And that's where the story comes from. They were dead before they hit the ground, with people jumping off tall enough buildings. And when they do the autopsies, they find the organs are saturated with water, and that the blood, they say the blood vessels collapse before they even hit the ground. That's how fast it can happen. And you got to be careful with this fear pandemic. And wearing a mask, low oxygen levels causes brain damage. Within 3 seconds, it goes below OSHA requirement levels, which is 19.5%. And if you cause brain damage, let me ask you, do you think healthy people are more docile if they're smarter and easier to control if they're smarter, or are sick people who are not as smart easier to control? Are sick people more docile and easier to control with mass mind control and things? Well, the people who are sicker, who are getting the brain damage from wearing the mask, in my opinion, it contributes to what I call mask hypnosis. It also contributes to, if you do one thing, it's easier to get you to do another thing, like have a vaccine. What we have proven with over 99.7% of Americans have recovered who have had COVID. What that proves is that we can produce our own antibodies just as we always have for thousands of years without vaccinations. The fact that we haven't had a vaccine for the COVID-19 and most people are recovering, that proves that. And over 99.9% of the rest of the world also has been able to do that. The United States has had a lot of the people who have died. But if you look at the hundreds of millions of people here, our population, you look at the numbers, we know that something, in order to be an epidemic, it has to be 1 out of 1,000. Double epidemic, 1 out of 500. Plague is 1 out of 50. What do you do with 1 out of 2 with heart disease? And cancer, which has also been between 1 out of 3 and 1 out of 2. What about diabetes, that was almost tied with that 1 out of 3, and then somehow obesity is almost tied with cancer, and we're shutting everybody indoors, not letting them go to the gym. And it doesn't take that long. Within a couple of weeks, muscle size reduces dramatically, which is what most of our metabolism is made up of, is our muscles. So I recommend the events we're teaching you. Is one of them will help people retain their physical activity even while being in lockdown, even while being quarantined. That's the race for the truth. It's a healing marathon. But check this out. The one-way check valves of the lymph vessels, that's why the techniques that we develop work, is because they're activating those vessels. It doesn't have a heart to beat to activate it. But anytime there's less pressure above the one-way check valve and below, it opens and pushes fluid through a little bit at a time. And the largest lymph vessel is called the thoracic duct. See the guy on the left? Right in the middle, right between the lungs, is the largest lymphatic vessel in the body. We call it the tree trunk. And at the peak of a deep breath, it shoots like a geyser, like an oil well. That, and then bouncing activates those one-way check valves. So we recommend mini trampolines, and we know that that also magnifies thought wave and a bunch of different things. I'm going to demonstrate the instant mass healing demo now, because that's one of the reasons why it creates the results is because it's because we're creating that environment. So I want Aris, you'll come up here, Aris. I've got to show you something that if your endocrine glands were on 100%, your alignment would be very good. And my guess is you're probably not on 100%. Let's check this out. If you'll stand in front of the camera facing the wall, I'm going to do a little bit of alignment check for you. And just turn around and face the wall. Mind if I put my hands on top of the iliac crest? Where the iliac crest is the top of the hip bones. I'm just going to see which one's higher than the other. Is that okay? Oh, can we do this with you? And you face, okay, I'm going to bring in Zori, who faced the wall. So we're going to put both hands on top of the hips, here and here. Now, see the right side? This doesn't surprise me. I'm on top of the hip bones now. And mind if I pull your shirt up a little bit? See the belt, I'm just showing, because even the belt, it tends to lay where the bones are. And I'm putting my fingers on top of the hip bones here and here. And it's actually, the right side's pulling down. See this, Aris? It's off about this far. So for those of you, you know, what I'm looking at is, let's get where the camera can see, you know, the right side's pulled down about 3/4 of an inch or so. So I also want you to have well, if you have a seat over here, just get your feet in the camera now. And if we can, pull the feet towards me. And I'm gonna, yeah, let's show this. So where I'm at, I'm looking at the bottom of the heels. Can you see this one is longer than this one because the heel's sticking out? Same thing as if I put my fingers where the, well, it's easier if I stand this way. If I stick my fingers here, well, at least you can see the bottom of the heel there, the left side and the right side. I'll put my fingers here and here. It's hard to see it on the camera, but it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. What this is going to do is it's going to level off the hips instantly for everyone who's part of this activation. Even though I'm in Maui, Hawaii, and I'm at Kihei, 1993 South Kihei Road. It is 12:57 p.m. and I'm going to go ahead and shut my eyes. I know the eyes are a window to the soul too. It's a direct connection, subconscious to subconscious, but it's not the only window to the soul. There's plenty of people watching this, and you're not here with me. The video doesn't work quite the same way. But I'm going to go ahead and send out a data transfer that will also be a pretty big activation that I've only been doing since 2020 started, and I started it right before the scare pandemic happened. But here we go. Take a deep breath and okay, let me see the bottom of your feet. They're just relax. Let me take all the weight. So that's gone straight. Let me see your hips. Okay. See where, look at that. Now the hip bones are straight. We need to adjust the belt a little bit because the bones move under the skin. It's okay. So totally straight every single time. I've done this with 1,000 people. And on the last broadcast, I actually had a student who was there at the T. Harv Eker event with 1,000 people 10 years ago who was watching this happen, where I had everyone measuring themselves. And there's no way that when I have you measuring yourselves in a live event that that can be rigged. So anyway, I just want to say it's going to be interesting to see how long this lasts for some of you. It's become stronger and stronger. If you want it to be permanent, I recommend learning how to do it for yourself. Nothing quite replaces that. And with that, that is the grand finale. I want to send you my gift now, thelawsofempowerment.com, which you can also reach, you can access at zerodisease.com links page, or you can go to maskhypnosis.com, and it's the link at the top of that page. So yeah, you're welcome. And I'm going to hop off and on to the other call because it's the top of the hour. Hopefully you join me. I'll give you a little bit of time to do that.